Good day, everyone, and Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Global CIO Forum, NetApp, and Cisco, I welcome all the online attendees to this virtual summit on Ignite the Power of Future Data Centers. The ever-increasing data and rapid pace of digitization has transformed the data center infrastructure. Handling complex workloads is now an integral part of the modern data center. In fact, Gartner forecasts end-user spending on global data center infrastructure to reach $200 billion in 2021. So during this virtual summit, we will see how Cisco and NetApp enable customers to harness the power of their data. We will have presented over the modern data center architecture, unlocking the power of AI workloads, remote workplace experiences, and CI innovations for healthcare, amongst others. Taking us through today's virtual summit are Jeroen Kulderai, Alliance Business Development Manager, EMEA at NetApp; Michael Homer, Solution Architect, Data Center Solutions at NetApp; and Christophe Deschamps, Cloud Infrastructure and Software Group Data Solution Architect at Cisco. So before we begin this event, here are some short housekeeping rules. All attendees are on mute throughout the session. So please do post your questions for the speakers through the chat option, and they'll be happy to take all questions at the end of this session. So now I would like to call on Jeroen Kulderai from NetApp to give an overview of the modern data center architecture. Over to you, Jeroen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ignite the Power of Your Future Data Center webinar, and thank you for attending. My name is Jeroen Kulderai. I am responsible at NetApp for the Cisco Alliance as an Alliance Business Development Manager at NetApp. And today we would like to talk a little bit more around how we can help ignite your future data center with the help of Flexpod. And I'm joined here today with my colleagues, Mike Homer and Christophe Deschamps from Cisco, who will, in their turn, present a little bit more in depth around the different use cases around Flexpod and the different next steps that we're developing around Flexpod as well. But before we go into that, I would like to actually give a little bit of a bird's eye view of what we're seeing in the market today when it comes to the changes in businesses and in IT. And to do so, I would like to kind of zoom out over the last 2 decades to give a little bit of a view of how the environments changed for our customers and how the environments have led to a different type of approach when it comes to IT. When we look 2 decades ago, we saw that there was a big focus around hardware. The hardware was really a business driver for the organizations. Last decade, that changed more in terms of application software, where that was driving more of the business drivers for our customers. You can think of areas like software-defined, where actually the application software was now defining the hardware capabilities. And in this current decade now, we see that there's a huge growth in the data set of that IT landscape, where data has really become a big, important business driver for organizations like ourselves today. And because of that change, we see that there's also a lot of changes in the requirements that we see in IT today. So we're going to have a look at how actually data is now changing IT requirements for our organizations in the market today. We see on the left side that with a huge growth of data, that many of the customers have chosen to actually start deploying a hybrid cloud infrastructure. 63% of the IT leaders today have deployed the hybrid cloud infrastructure today. And the remaining 37%, more than half of those are already planning to move to a hybrid cloud infrastructure in the next 24 months. Then also we see that there is a huge change in the way how we connect and optimize the infrastructure regardless of location, and by the adoption of container technologies. We see that there is a double-digit growth, 50% growth on containers throughout the different organizations in the market today. The expectation is actually that we're actually growing 25 to 44% in the next 3 years, where customers are adopting containerized technologies. Next to that, we have also changing expectations from customers, because with these changing environments, our customers are also expecting that they can be confident about deploying these new technologies in an enterprise in an enterprise-like way with a trusted IT that is secure. So they would like to make sure that with a IT environment that is across the different areas, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, we can manage and secure that environment in a similar way, independent of what type of workload it is, whether that's a traditional one on the on-premise environment or a newer workload in the cloud environment. So now that's very nice, but let's show a little bit of how our customers have benefited from Flexpod architecture today. So I would like to show you a few examples of a few customers with different workloads that they've deployed in their environment. First of all, Canon Design have deployed a virtual desktop infrastructure based on Flexpod to be able to faster adapt to their changing environment, to create a smaller footprint and simplify their support when it comes to desktop support for their employees. TierPoint has deployed a hybrid cloud platform on Flexpod in order to kind of prepare themselves for the future of hybrid cloud, creating a secure multi-tenancy converged infrastructure with integrated data protection in there. Then the third one, Börse Stuttgart, which is the German stock exchange, have deployed a private cloud for their environment to really unlock the power of data for their customers and support massive throughput, and also enable future application development for allowing their customers to use the latest applications. And the last one, TAS Networks, deployed an SAP HANA infrastructure on Flexpod to really increase their end user focus, transform the performance and reduce the footprint in their data center as well. So now for those who are not very familiar with Flexpod, let me explain a little bit what Flexpod actually is. So Flexpod is a converged infrastructure designed by Cisco and NetApp, and it consists out of a couple of components from Cisco and from NetApp. All these components are pre-tested and pre-validated to ensure that they all work together and they are performing together as they should. On the Cisco side, we will have Cisco UCS servers. These can be B series or Blade servers, or the C series, those are the rack servers. Then we have the UCS Fabric Interconnect, and then connected to the Nexus data center switching from Cisco. And underneath that, you'll see there's a NetApp storage component, which can be consisting of the FAS or the all-flash FAS system, running the ONTAP software on top of that. And underneath that, we have the MDS switches taking care of the storage switching piece of that. So this is kind of a one model of the Flexpod components that are all tested and validated. The beauty of a Flexpod is that it's flexible. That basically means you can mix and match the different components to your requirements as you see fit. So what that basically means, that with this one model, you actually can create multiple personalities, whether that's many personalities on a bare metal system or many personalities in a virtualized system. So for example, if you have a requirement where you would like to run an AI or an ML workload on your infrastructure, you may want to need more compute than you maybe need storage. That's not a problem for Flexpod. You can design a Flexpod specifically around those use cases to kind of make sure that you get the right resources for your compute allocated to that AI workload. The same goes for SAP or for any other type of workload that we've pre-tested in our labs together with Cisco and NetApp. So to go a little bit more deeper in the subject, I would like to leave the word to Mike Homer, my colleague, to show you a little bit more around the specific use cases that we have with Flexpod. Mike?
Thank you very much. So Flexpod has been around for 10 plus years of partnership with Cisco. And over that time period, we have investigated a large number of applications and use cases and demonstrated the functionality of Flexpod. What I want to show as we move forward here is some of those latest innovations. If we go to the next slide there, and what we've done recently, and then dive deeper into a few of those specific solutions. So overall, NetApp has constantly been evolving over the years that we've been running this. That proven history has allowed us to make sure that it presents itself as an extremely secure foundation. As we know, cyber attacks and those types of things are up significantly in the last year. So this gives customers an excellent platform to begin creating that secure foundation as they expand their infrastructure and move forward. Down the right-hand side, you see a number of those innovations, whether it's cloud tiering, whether it's using containers, whether it's using all NVMe, all things that can allow your customers to ensure they have the latest technology in a form factor, a converged infrastructure that makes it easy for them to operate. So let's dive into a few of those in a little more specifics. Go ahead. For starters, databases, and specifically SAP. Many customers are faced with the challenge of having to do that transformation from a classic mode of operation into SAP HANA. And as they do that, they're looking for a good foundational infrastructure that will allow them to meet those challenges that HANA present as far as memory requirements, as well as move forward in holding the storage and capacity that they need. SAP has also evolved their application to include things like their data hub as we begin to drive more information, as was pointed out in the first part here, of more data being generated, more data needing to be sorted and classified, more data as part of that database functionality. So Flexpod serves as an excellent foundation, not only for HANA, but those other SAP application services that relate around this. As you see in the next slide, it's not just a one-size-fits-all. We actually have a plethora of different hardware options to support what you need from your specific customer's business requirements, all of which have been certified through SAP. So whether it needs to run over an Ethernet fiber channel network, whether it needs a small, medium, or large storage array, and there's a whole host of Cisco Compute family as well that can be deployed on this, allowing you to custom tailor a solution that not only satisfies the requirements from an SAP perspective, but ensures that your customer is getting what they need from a business perspective. Not oversizing, not undersizing, but fitting a solution that is right for them in a converged stack that will give them the operational simplicity that they're looking for moving forward. Some of those key takeaways as far as what customers can expect out of this is that ability to have a validated infrastructure. Again, whether it's with SAP's Data Hub, whether it's with SAP HANA, whether they want to run file, whether they want to run block, it's all covered. That also gives them a single point of automation and orchestration because of the commonality across the UCS platform, across the NetApp storage platform. They will be able to take advantage of simplified orchestration and automation. Plus, there's a whole host of services from both Cisco and NetApp that move higher up the stack, giving them the tools they need to be highly effective as they move through their SAP lifecycle of being able to test, move into QA, move into production, validate results, and overall get an enterprise-grade experience through their entire environment. What about some other solutions? Let's talk a little bit about AI/ML. Certainly, it is a buzzword with almost any organization out there, just as the cloud was a few years back. How do I get the benefits out of machine learning and artificial intelligence to effectively change the bottom line, move my company forward. Well, in truth, it's a life cycle. It's not just about one solution. It is about the data. It is about training. It is about deploying and inferencing. Edge, core, and cloud, tying all of these pieces together. I need a framework that is going to allow me to move through that life cycle and not have to relearn the environment each and every time. That's exactly what we can do with a FlexPod architecture. As you see on the next slide, we have a whole host of hardware and GPU offerings as well as storage to meet all those different stages within the environment. So whether I'm just trying something out, maybe I do that in the cloud, maybe I do that with a small C-series server, rack mount server, and a small storage array. Once I've determined what it is I need to actually do to clean and correlate my data to begin that modeling, maybe I need to scale up with significant more compute power and GPU power, or even a dedicated system that's specifically designed, such as the UCS C480ML. And then obviously pairing that with a storage system that can handle the throughput, handle the I/O requirements for really getting through those large models quickly. And once I have that model created, I need to get this out and actually inferencing, actually making decisions that will help move the needle for my organization. Again, that's where those smaller systems come into play with some of the cutting edge cards from NVIDIA. So being able to combine this entire workflow from a hardware perspective is key, but we need to add on top of that. As you see in the next slide, we've actually worked very hard to create frameworks that allow customers to move from potentially pilot projects in the cloud to training and creating those large models on their data center, and then pushing it out to the field, but then also getting those anomalies that are outliers that occur in those inferencing models to further refine those models on-prem in that main data center. But do this in a container workflow using things like Jupyter Notebooks, things that the data science team, the team that's actually putting these models in place, understand without having to dive deep into the networking, the compute, the storage layer. So giving them the tools they need to effectively use not only FlexPod, but a hybrid cloud to really make that AI ML workflow and orchestration come to life. But there's other areas as well from a FlexPod perspective. So as we move into some of those other solutions, we've all seen that there's been a huge shift to working remotely. Obviously, the world has changed a little bit, and we need to be able to adapt quickly. Many organizations made a quick rush, but then found out that, hey, there's a larger conversation to be had. Where is my data actually sitting? Who needs to access that data? What is the security concerns of that data and other resources that my organization needs? While it was very quick to spin things up in the cloud from a VDI perspective, many of the functional users needed to be brought back into the data center for those security concerns. And FlexPod serves as a fantastic foundation for running those VDI applications at scale. Because of the individual components and the nature of how they function, we can very quickly expand capacity non-disruptively. We can expand controllers, which means from a performance level, do I suddenly need to bring on new applications that require additional resources for those remote workers? Do those applications drive more performance requirements? I can expand the controller base to do that. Do I want to try something out? Bring on a new application. I can go out to the cloud very easily to model this, get good telemetry and understanding of what my resource requirements are, and then bring that back on-prem if I need to. Do my users, are they leveraging the system harder than before? Are they now diving into CAD applications, engineering applications, modeling applications that require more GPU resources? As we saw from the AI slide, many of those cards could be also used from a VDI perspective to bring additional resources for those desktops. And I can very quickly add QoS and make sure that my environment is going to operate as I need to for my constituents so that I've got the best possible experience for my remote workers. And to make this simple, Cisco and NetApp have worked together not only in designing that CVD, where we show you how to scale the system out to well over 6,000 users, but also break it down into usable chunks, having quick reference bundles so that I don't have to engineer each and every component, but based on the architecture in what we've tested in that CVD, we've actually created quick ship bundles, both from Cisco and NetApp, to get the compute and networking components quickly married up with the storage components so that you can give your customer something very quickly to frame the conversation and they can understand how they can move forward with a VDI deployment. So as we move into the next solution, I do want to touch real quickly a little more deeply on that Canon design conversation that was up front. They had a challenge of moving out of their data center and being able to bring up a new system within 6 months, but they wanted to make sure that it would meet their needs today, but also be extendable, flexible for moving forward, because constantly evolving from an engineering perspective what their users needed in order to successfully work with their customers, as well as move the environment forward. As you can see some of the statistics there, we were able to do that with a Flexpod, put in a VDI environment that they could have up and running in 6 months and massively reduce their footprint in their data center while doing that. You can read more with a link there and some details of what we went in, but it's just an example of how customers could use a converged infrastructure to really move their organization forward, both in terms of providing the resources they needed while meeting the business's challenges of a shrinking environment. Last piece we want to touch upon is a little bit of healthcare. Now, we've gone across a number of different solutions from an application perspective, but here we want to focus a little bit more on how we can affect a specific vertical. Definitely healthcare is on the front minds of everyone in the current situation, and classically healthcare organizations had different solutions for each and every part of their environment. That obviously created challenges as far as sharing patient data, making sure that you had good correlation and treating the whole patient, as well as the operational challenges of having a multitude of different systems that you had to keep up and running. Flexpod can help consolidate all of that. Again, because of the flexibility in the components, we can tune different aspects of that to meet the challenges of each of these applications. That allows organizations to bring their data sets into a more common framework, have a fewer set of tools so they can focus more on innovation, less on the care and feeding of each of these applications, and ensuring that there's a good platform as new research opportunities, new applications come down the line to be able to quickly bring them into the environment to overall improve patient health. Specifically on some of the CVDs, you can see on the next slide where we've developed and designed solutions around those patient records. How do you ensure that you've got the best solution to provide the best reliability and performance? Medical imaging. How do I ensure that I can take those very large libraries, ensure that I'm going to be able to keep them for the requisite time period, ingest that information quickly, and then offer it back up for innovative use cases, such as AI for diagnostics. And genomics, large data sets that need a lot of performance in order to be able to quickly go through and scan things like a virus and determine its genetic pattern in order to tailor solutions for the cure and for things like a vaccine. All what we've seen demonstrated here in the last year. So we have specific white papers on some of those solutions, as you see here in the next slide. And again, you'll be able to go back and reference these, whether it's medical imaging, whether it's certain patient health records, guidance on not only how to set the solutions up, but what you can expect from performance, so that again, you can tailor a solution specific to a customer need. And you see on the next slide here a specific use case with a hospital that we worked with to use Flexpod to advance their patient record system. The fun story with this one was the performance was such an increase that the day they went live, they got a massive number of complaints from doctors, all of whom said, hey, I thought we were supposed to go live. Why am I still on the pilot system? This is responding way too fast. That was the performance boost that they saw. The doctors were so impressed with the ability of the system to scale and continue to provide that enhanced performance beyond what they saw in the pilot in the full production system. As you can see there, they saw almost a fourfold increase in what they were able to achieve. Think about what that meant for patient care in terms of being able to quickly get the records required and make those split-second changes and decisions based on the data that they were able to suddenly access. So with this, to kind of turn it over in terms of where do we go next? How do we take this architecture and manage it in this coming solutions?
Thanks very much, Mike. And next slide, please, Jeroen. Thank you. So I'll quickly talk to Interside, a few features that are coming here, and specifically the NetApp integration. First things first, Interside was introduced about 4 years ago, and it was sort of initially it was meant as a management as a service platform for your Cisco UCS server estate. So what is it? It's a SaaS offering, but it can also be deployed on premises as either what we call a connected virtual appliance, in which case it can still receive updates, retrieve updates from Interside from the cloud, or in air-gap mode, which we call the private virtual appliance. So that's for dark side customers. Obviously, then you lose some of the benefits of a SaaS platform, like the fact that that we're hosting it for you, that we're patching it on your behalf, and that we roll updates into it on typically a bi-weekly release schedule following a CI/CD model. Yeah, so it's a microservices-based SaaS platform. Other features we have, for example, things like connected TAC, automated log collection, you know, to improve post-sale support, case time to resolution, and of course things like firmware updates, security advisories, and many more. Okay, we're also about to launch the Interside Managed Mode, which essentially means we are moving away. So that's a big revolution in UCS management. We're moving away from UCS Manager and moving the policy model from the Fabric Interconnect up and into Interside in the long run. So that's where we're going with that. Next slide, please. But I said it is, you know, a systems management as a service platform, but it has since its inception grown to become much more than that. And so we refer to it as a cloud operating platform nowadays, because it encompasses only sort of supporting the lifecycle automation of the Cisco infrastructure, but it also includes now integration with third-party components, and it provides very deep insight into things like workload placement. It lets you orchestrate day 0, day 1, day X tasks, and it integrates with the various cloud platforms, whether that's a private cloud, whether it's a hyperscaler public cloud, or a hybrid model. And when it comes to third-party integration, we are obviously more than happy to report that we've started working with NetApp on that. Next slide, please. And the integration is, well, really twofold, but so just to give an overview here, what does it include? First of all, it'll enable us to claim NetApp devices. Like so far, you could claim Cisco servers. You can now also claim NetApp storage arrays alongside other third-party components. For instance, we've got integration with the vCenter API, so VMware. And so once the NetApp array is claimed in Interside, we can add some pretty looking dashboard. We can do some monitoring, some capacity utilization overview, and we'll have a storage a menu in Interside where the arrays will show, and all their hardware components like controllers, you know, adapters, disks, and so on, and all their software components or configuration objects, if you will, the aggregates, the volumes, the LUNs, you know, initiator groups, and so on. And ultimately, and this is probably, I would say, the most interesting and most exciting part of the integration, is we'll be able to build custom workflows. And so we'll be able to build quite sophisticated automation and orchestration. Next slide, please. And so that integration works in the following way. So for Cisco devices, it's fairly simple. We have something called a device connector that we are running on our own firmware. So whether it's on a UCS server or a fabric interconnect or a switch or whatever, we control the firmware, so we can run that agent, if you will. But since we don't want to amend the NetApp ONTAP software or operating system, if you will, then and we want to avoid having to run an agent and maintain them and all that, we are passing through something called the Interside Assist appliance. So that's essentially a VM that runs on premises, and you can also claim your vCenter that I just mentioned via that same Interside Assist appliance. And so in order to be able to manage the NetApp storage arrays, we're passing through NetApp's AIQUM, so the Unified Manager on-prem appliance, which also allows us, of course, to gain additional intelligence from the system. Next slide, please. That'll show us a little bit what that could look like. And if you're used to UCSD, UCS directed, then this is a bit the direction we're taking. Essentially, you'll have a catalog of tasks, and tasks can be, all sorts of mundane management orchestration type tasks that an admin or operator would perform. And so here in this case, it allows me to concatenate these tasks into custom workflows. And here's a simple example of where we create a volume, we carve a LUN out of it, and then we present it to an I group, to an initiator group. Yeah, and obviously you could do something a lot more elaborate. You could involve third-party tasks, like perhaps you would rescan the host, you would put a VMFS data store on it, on the LUN, and so on and so forth. Okay. Next slide, please. And then finally, another point of integration, if you will, is by means of the Cisco Interside Workload Optimizer, or for short, IWO. And the next slide will show that here as an example. So what IWO is an application resource management tool, or ARM. Yeah, slightly different from an APM. If you're familiar with CWAM, that's a Cisco Workload Optimization Manager, which is an OEM of Turbonomic software. And then IWO, or Interside Workload Optimizer, is the SaaSified version of that. I think Turbo call it the Turbo XL, or Turbonomic 8, essentially. So that's natively integrated into Interside. Okay, that's part of Interside. And their approach generally is proactive workload management rather than reactive. In other words, they make recommendations or can automatically move workloads in order to avoid bottlenecks and any type of issues to arise, rather than wait for some alert to be asserted and then trying to fix it. Yeah, so they're trying to move away from that mode of operation. And specifically, the integration with NetApp is fairly deep, for example, as compared to other storage vendors that they do support as well. On the NetApp, they can recommend resizing and provisioning, but they can also automate volume move, for example, if it was to run out of capacity. Okay, and next slide, please. So ultimately, what that gives me is, it gives me that sort of feedback loop. Yeah, so and IWO gives me this end-to-end supply chain kind of view, where I can see the infrastructure all the way from the specific workload, so the VM, on through the network onto the hypervisor, the server, and ultimately the storage backend. But it also integrates with App Dynamics, which allows me to map that to application calls, right? To application tiers and the individual calls, whether it's application front end, application backend. So that gives me very deep visibility, full visibility. I know what I have, I know what's going on. Then I can draw intelligent insights from the analytics data that I'm collecting there, and then leverage automation, orchestration, and translate that into some sensible, or let's say actionable operations, and continuously optimize my infrastructure. And last slide, please. Thanks, Yadun. So Interside, we've seen very briefly, but Interside is quickly becoming that unified management platform that many of our customers have been asking and waiting for. And a final point to take away from this, since we're abstracting the various different hypervisors, the cloud platforms, the container orchestration platforms, the third-party integrations that we have with NetApp, with vCenter, and so on. We're also exposing northbound a single open API-based interface, allowing you as customers or partners or providers perhaps to program against Interside and to programmatically perform all of those different tasks that we just spoke about. All right. And with that, I wanted to thank our friends at NetApp for their partnership and everybody on the call for their time and interest. Thank you. I don't hear you, Arun.
I think you're
I especially liked, yeah, thank you. So excellent presentations from all the three speakers. It was really, really interesting. Some of the key takeaways which I liked was the data center trends from yourself, Jeroen. And Michael, I especially liked the right sizing aspect of Flexpod, not oversizing, not undersizing. That was a very interesting takeaway to match the application workloads. And of course, from you, Christoph, about the Cisco Interside, highly specialized, but I think has a large number of use cases. So one of the first questions, obvious questions, which is coming in now, is about the Flexpod, the Cisco NetApp alliance. There are a lot of other vendors with HCI infrastructure. How do we compare the Flexpod alliance of innovation with some of the newer models? Go ahead, both of you. Let's hear what you have to say.
Sorry, what was the question about HCI? Is that correct?
So the question, the first question coming in here is that there are another vendors with HCI infrastructure offering the solution. How do you compare the Flexpod solution and the architecture with some of the newer models, considering that you've been there for the last 10 years? Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeroen, do you want me to take that?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Well, so HCI obviously has a lot of benefits for customers, the ease of use, the ease of deployment, kind of those kind of building blocks, and it is, you know, it's fairly well suited for particular given workloads. What we do find though is in many cases customers risk to create new silos because HCI is typically very well suited for one given workload, but not so much for mixed workloads to be thrown against it. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is that due to its nature, so there's the connotation of shared core and so forth. The storage controller is converged onto the compute platform. So workload and storage run on the same platform. There are some limitations with respect to scale. And there's some tighter coupling between the different layers. And Jeroen said it initially in his portion of the deck is the flexibility of Flexpod is the decoupling of those different layers. So I can scale vertically or horizontally the compute independently from the storage. That's and there are of course technical differences, but I don't think we need to go into too much detail there.
Yeah, maybe in summary, I think the main difference between Flexpod and an HCI solution is where an HCI solution is really a standardized building block, where Flexpod is really a tailor-made infrastructure that is really fitted to the customer's requirements and environment, right? So, and every customer has a different environment. None of them are exactly the same. And that's where Flexpod really allows them to get the most benefit out of that infrastructure.
Fantastic. So next question we have over here is, if I can read it out and obviously you can interpret it. Can you please talk about the co-op support model a bit and how it works now? So co-op support model, over to you both. Go ahead.
So when it comes to support model, we actually provide 3 different models nowadays. So we leave it really up to the customer of how they would like to get the best support for their environment. So the first option obviously is going through your partners, right? Many of our partners are well suited to provide support for our customers on the Flexpod platform. So that would be our first option the customers can go for. Then we have the cooperative support model, which is basically an agreement between Cisco and NetApp and some of the third-party vendors that we support as well. And that basically allows customers to raise a case where they have a challenge with their infrastructure. Let's say they don't know exactly where the problem lies. Either they contact any of the vendors on that related to the platform, whether that's NetApp, Cisco, it can be even SAP or VMware, and we will take that case, and then if it happens to be a problem on the other vendor side, we will do a warm transfer of that case, and we will have the other vendor pick that case up for the customer. And then we have a third option, and that's a solution support model. Essentially, that's a support contract that the customer can take, and basically that is almost a single choke to throat when it comes to support. That is really to simplify the support mechanism for our customers. They just have one number to dial. They have one single point of contact that will take the case and make sure that in the back end that case will be resolved, and the customer only contacts that specific single point of contact. So we remove a lot of that hassle from pointing to another organization. We have one single point of contact that the customer engages with, and the case will be resolved.
So very interesting over there, and I hope it answers the customers, the attendees' question on that. Just a follow-up again on the Flexpod. I think it was in Michael's presentation where obviously the use cases are presented, and I think Jeroen, you also mentioned about growth. So the question is, we heard in the slide considerable Y-on-Y growth. Can you please elaborate which verticals are selling and what are the leading application solutions on Flexpod? I think it's the use cases and the applications. So unfortunately, Michael is not here, but over to you, Jeroen and Christoph, if you can answer that. Go ahead.
Well, looking at the overall Flexpod install base that we see across the world, we see that there is, let's say 95% is all in the enterprise segment where Flexpod is being adopted. And in terms of specific verticals, we see there's a wide range of verticals that use Flexpod as their platform. So we see manufacturing being one of the big ones. We see now as well healthcare, like Mike already mentioned. We see that adoption in healthcare growing significantly, and yeah, a lot of service providers and telecom providers are using Flexpod as well, especially because they have these big environments that need to scale very quickly. So they really benefit from this architecture. When you look at the specific workloads, we see that SAP is one of the larger workloads that are driving that are running on Flexpod. So the majority of our customers are running SAP on it in combination and in conjunction with other workloads, obviously, because most of our Flexpod platforms are a mixture of different workloads.
Interesting. Obviously, the use cases around AI and ML creating many new opportunities with vertical markets, and obviously driving interest for both channel partners and end customers over there. Another question coming up is again in comparison to some of the other vendor products. The question reads as follows. My question is, while HCI and other products like vBlock are built at the factory and shipped to the customer, is there a plan to do this for Flexpod? Because most of the time the partner or the distributor needs to build it. Go ahead, Jeroen, and Christoph also, if you'd like to give your inputs. Go ahead.
You
Well,
want to take that, Christoph?
I can. Well, I can. Many, in fact, many offer. So Flexpod is by its nature meet in the channel. That is correct. But we do have many distributors who build the systems and who have sort of T-shirt sizes, and then it cascades down into the channel. So if the question is, are we going to pre-build it from our factory? I don't think that that is in the planning, at least not to my knowledge. But maybe you have different information there. But I think we keep that sort of meet in the channel model, which is, by the way, a very good opportunity for our partners, tier 1 partners, tier 2 partners, to add value and to add their services, right? And to custom build for their respective market or something.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Christoph and Sarah, this is Maya, and I maybe can help with this, leading the channel in this region. So yes, we have the right distributors here in this region where they can help. They are Cisco and NetApp distributors, and they can help our partners consolidate the solution and support even with their customers. So we give them the confidence and the peace of mind as well to our partners. Not to forget that we have as well some direct Cisco partners, which they can as well take the benefit of working as well with distributors and using the added value from pre-sales and post-sales as well. So, and if any question or any support needed, they can reach out to myself and to the channel team that we have based out of the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maya. So
Maybe just add to Christoph's point, because I think it's very important where there's a difference, this really distinguished difference between having something, completed in a factory somewhere, I believe somewhere done in Ireland, versus someone like a partner, understanding your environment, understanding your needs, providing additional value to that solution. That brings much more value than having it somewhere pre-built in a kind of factory somewhere where they don't know exactly your environment, they don't know exactly your cabling systems or your data center environment, and that's where a partner really steps in, and that adds to that piece of flex in the Flexpod, where we can be extremely flexible with your needs when it comes to this solution.
So great answers. Thank you very much, Maya, for jumping in over there, and Maya's team always available for taking up any of the partner challenges and end customer challenges. And I think both Christoph and Jiron have given different points of view. Very interesting. So thank you for that overall perspective. I'm going to jump now to a question around Cisco, since Christoph, you seem to be quite keen to answer questions over there. The question is as follows. It's is there a need to use the Cisco MDS switch for SAN connectivity together with the Cisco Nexus switches in the same architecture, since the Nexus is a unified switch that can do both LAN and SAN traffic? So I think highly specific around Cisco networking infrastructure. Do you need me to read it out once again, Christoph?
No, that's okay. Yeah, I get the question. So there's no requirement per se. So maybe I can split the question. First of all, we don't dictate per se, which fiber channel SAN vendor you are using. So if you have an existing, let's say from vendor B, for example, we are of course interoperable with that as much as NetApp are, and that's fine. You will not find CVDs with third-party switches in it. In the CVDs, we will always, if we have fiber channel SAN connectivity, we will always use Cisco MDS for that connectivity. Can you do fiber channel SAN on the Nexus? Yes, the Nexus 9K, or at least some of them with a specific license installed, can provide similar services. Our recommendation is it's a matter of scale and it's a matter of functionality. Typically for enterprise, for sort of tier 1 loads, in order to have the scalability and the full functionality, we recommend MDS for the fiber channel SAN, for the block connectivity between the server and the storage. But of course, you can, leverage convergence, and you can use the Nexus switches that can serve both. It depends on the use case. Both are certified and qualified, so there's no problem. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christoph. Deep dive over there. Another question coming in, I think this is more on the FlexPod. Is the converged system advisor still going to be part of the solution, or is it going to be EOL, end of life? Go ahead, Jiran. Go ahead, Christoph.
It is already announced end of life CSA. And one of the things, it's not going to be that it's completely dissolved, but with the integration of ONTAP with Interside, most of those management capabilities will now be integrated into Interside. So that same functionality will be available, but that is now in Interside.
Okay, great. Coming back again to the overall partnership between Cisco and NetApp on the FlexPod, can you just look into the immediate future in terms of innovation? What is happening on the Cisco side, what's happening on the NetApp side, and how is FlexPod going to meet the requirements going forward? That's a more generic question, but it seems to be somewhere here in the chat. So your thoughts on that, Jiran and Christoph, go ahead, please.
Yeah, maybe I can just give a bit of a generic view on that one. I mean, when we look over in the last decade with FlexPod, which we introduced back, almost 11 years now. Over that 11 years, that FlexPod platform has never remained the same, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't be still talking about it now. So we continuously innovate FlexPod. FlexPod today is not the same FlexPod as it was last year or the year before. So we have a very large team on both Cisco as well as NetApp of engineers, of business development managers, sales teams, marketing teams, and many other functions in this alliance that work continuously to make sure that we are on top of the innovation path going forward. And the widening portfolios on both Cisco's data center portfolio as well as NetApp's data center portfolio is also helping us to drive more value to customers and stay very relevant for our customers today. So where, for example, Christoph explained more around Interside or IWO, these are additional portfolio pieces that we kind of stick to the FlexPod umbrella. To really make sure that our customers are running a very innovative platform, and that's something we continue to do so in the future as well.
Thanks, Jiran. Anything you want to add over there, Christoph? About the innovation on the Cisco side?
Well, I think what we've seen in during the presentation and during all the because we do this on a regular basis, we do these kind of provide these kind of updates. You see that on the one hand, we are of course embracing all the enterprise apps, all the sort of traditional workloads that have been running on FlexPod, and we keep on supporting all the newest platforms and operating systems and applications. But we also keep on adding new workloads. We've qualified OpenShift as an example. So we're working on Kubernetes, we're working on cloud integration, we're working on many of those things, and there are many more to come. We can't share the roadmap in detail, but yeah, what Jeroen said, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline, and it's not just sort of revamping existing stuff, but there's a lot of new net new workloads coming. Actually, I'd say in the last couple of years, there were more net new than in the previous 5 years or something like that. So yeah.
And maybe just to add, because we distinguish a couple of different types of innovation in our organization. So one way we have innovation in terms of new technical products that we introduce to the FlexPod platform. So for example, that can be the latest UCS compute servers, or that can be the latest ONTAP version of NetApp. And then the other side, we have new type of workloads that we introduce. For example, the latest SAP workload, SAP HANA became also in the past a new innovation. But FlexPod AI is one of the new platforms. So we have also platform innovations where FlexPod AI is really focused around this AI workload. And so we keep on developing that in those different 3 areas from a product perspective, from a a workload perspective and a platform perspective.
Excellent answer. Obviously, innovation has to take many forms, meeting the customer expectations. Another operational question coming in from the attendee, again, following up on the same thing about fabrication of the Flexpod. Can we get an option to add Flexpod racks to our solution? I think this will help us to install it as Flexpod in customer side, even though it is sold separately and integrated. Your thoughts on that, Jeroen? Go ahead.
We don't have specific Flexpod racks available. We can supply racks from our point of view, and so can Cisco as well. They're not really dedicated Flexpod racks, but our systems work with many different types of racks. So that allows also that flexibility once again to make sure that, you know, if a customer already has a rack in their data center, you can still install it. You don't have to pay for an additional new rack because it's part of the solution. Yeah, you can go either way.
But I think, and Jeroen, correct me if I'm wrong, or Maya, but I think that there are, in the region specifically, there might be some distributors that actually brand the racks. Wasn't that a thing in the past with the, you know, with the Flexpod logo on it and all that?
Yeah, we had some sticker sets through some distributors available indeed.
Yeah, we have Yaran and Christoph, and we can even customize something if it is specific, right? So we have, as I said, the right distributors that can help us manage this. And I'm not too sure, Yaran, maybe if you would want to touch a bit on the support, because as well, this is an opportunity for our partners, and maybe they need to get the confidence of who's going to provide the support and what support they can get at the end of the day. If you like to take this very quickly.
Well, you mean support in general for Flexpod?
Yes, because once it is built and customized, and maybe a joint partner, Cisco and NetApp, would want to know how he can provide as well the support to the customer through Cisco, through NetApp, jointly. And I think this will give as well a confidence to the partners that we have on the call.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, I think we covered that question previously as well. So we have these three types of support available. So one is support through the partner, so direct support from the partner to the customer. The other one is the cooperative support, where you know, a customer can contact either Cisco, NetApp, or one of the other vendors that are part of the platform. That can be Microsoft or SAP or VMware, and they can put their problem to one of the vendors, and then the vendor will check to which vendor this case needs to be routed towards. And then you have the solution support model, where we have a single support contract and a single support number that the customer dials, and that will be fixed through a single point of contact. So that really takes the hassle away from the customer, and the support model will take care of the rest.
Yeah, even when customized with a single distributor, that's what I meant. But thank you for
that's regardless of that distributor. Yeah.
So excellent explanation over there. Thank you, Maya, for jumping in again. And I just wanted to touch on the data center architecture. Which way are we seeing it going? So we have a lot of pressure on the data center to meet all sorts of expectations. Of course, you have security, you have the hyperscaler part of it, then you've got the private cloud increasingly for some organizations which are looking at, you know, scaling in terms of managing the private cloud, and then of course multi-cloud leading to hybrid cloud. So Jeroen, if you could just quickly and to stop, from your point of view of innovation, three types of innovation, what do you think is the way that the data center architecture is changing, and which obviously NetApp and Cisco are monitoring quite actively? And then to stop before we close, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so when looking at the future data center infrastructure, what's going to be very important and what we're really monitoring closely is the whole development of how our customer environments are changing, and where that movement is going from their data and their applications Is that going to be staying on-premise? Is that going to be all in the cloud? What we're seeing is that there is this movement towards a mixture of that model, right? Where certain workloads are moving to the cloud, other workloads remain on the on-premise environment for several different reasons. That can be security, that can be because it's confidential information or applications. So we see that there will always be remaining a mixture of different environments. Therefore, we put a lot of emphasis on making that platform, that Flexpod platform, not only connected to the cloud, but also capable of ensuring you can manage not only your data, but also your applications as a single layer, almost a holistic layer over the on-premise towards the cloud. So that allows our customers to really have that freedom of moving your application or your data to the cloud or back to your on-premise environment, but still manage it in one single way as if it was on-premise like it used to be as well. So that really provides value for our customers and control over their own data and applications, regardless of the location of where it resides.
Very interesting over there. And Christoph, anything you would like to add on that, on the changing architectures of the data center?
I think, well, in the interest of time, I'll keep it very short. But I think one of some of the very important points here are that the components, whether hardware or software, they need to be integrated, but they need to be open. They need to be programmable. We need software-defined storage, software-defined compute. We don't want forklift upgrades for the customers. They don't want vendor lock-in, whether it's with providers of infrastructure components or with cloud providers. And ultimately, we need infrastructure that has some level of intelligence because of the growing complexity and those different places, locations, data sources, this hybrid cloud model. We need intelligence in order to gain deep visibility into what I have, what's going on, draw analytics, and then draw sensible conclusions from that on how to continuously optimize that environment.
Fantastic. I think autonomous and automation working hand in hand to power up data centers as we go forward. So on that note, we're actually coming to the end of this session, 60+ minutes of absolutely engaging content. But before we close, I'd like to invite key takeaways. So Jeroen, your thoughts, what you like to share with the attendees as we close, top of line, Christoph, yourself, and Maya, if you would also like to jump in on the key takeaways. So starting with you, Jeroen, first, go ahead, please.
Yeah, sure. So I've got three main key takeaways. So first of all, in summary of what we presented today, Cisco and NetApp really continue to drive strong value to our customers with Flexpod, right? We're supporting these different use cases, we're supporting the different workloads, but also different verticals for our customers. And that flexibility, that flex in Flexpod is really something that can be applied on everything on and off that solution there. Also, the second key takeaway is Flexpod really allows our customers to ignite their future data center. So while the customers still are allowed to tailor their data center infrastructure on their terms, right? This is really tying into, make that solution your solution, because you are not completely the same as that other customer is, because your environment is a bit different. And that also allows you to do that on-premise or in a hybrid or in a multi-cloud scenario, even if that's the direction you would like to go. And then the third key takeaway is maybe even more of an ask, and that is really contact your partner or your account team to just continue that discussion with us. We'd love to work with you and bring that value that this strong alliance can provide to our customers. So those are my takeaways.
Sure, Jeroen, I like that term, ignite the future data centers. That is really, really key. So much going on in the data center and so much more that we can expect. Go ahead, Christoph, your key takeaways.
I would say two things really. I think we've witnessed, and you've seen it in the flesh. I mean, we are, Jeroen and myself and many others are part of a much greater alliance team locally and globally. The alliance is alive and kicking. We are doing tons of stuff together, and I would invite everyone out there to have a look at Interside and at the integration moving forward. That is very strategic for Cisco, but also for the alliance to have that end-to-end full-stack visibility and automation capability.
Very interesting. Thank you, Christoph.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Christoph. So Maya, would you like to jump in? Any key takeaways, any parting thoughts for the channel partners who are attending? Any thoughts over there?
Yeah, I think can't add more than what Yaron and Christoph just mentioned, but just want to highlight the future. And when we ignite our data center today, it is really to be ready for the future. That's something on the top of mind of every CIO today and every organization, the digital transformation and how we can move our workloads and be connected to the cloud, especially in this region. And with NetApp Cisco, we can make sure that we're providing you the right stability, future connection, future as well stability. So I recommend really to look and to reach to us and to our team for any needed support. And I close with that because I think we went a bit over time. But thanks for everyone for attending, and maybe stay tuned for more together with Cisco. And big thank you, Aaron, for yourself and for all the team.
So thank you very much, Maya, and of course thanks to Jeroen and Christoph and the other speakers who have been here. So on behalf of Global CIO Forum, NetApp and Cisco, I thank all the attendees for sitting through this absolutely engaging 60+ minutes of discussion. I thank all the attendees who posed questions for engaging with the speakers here. And please feel free to engage with Maya and the regional team, and of course, Jerome and Christoph. And thank you once again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.